Well, I think most of the better offensive teams in the National Hockey League have that component with at least one or two guys that really add to it. We're getting a little more, like Brandon got one the other night, Forbes got a couple, so it's coming a little bit here. For Charlie, the amount of time he plays, the amount of time we're encouraging to shoot pucks, that's good. You know, I think you had 7 or 8 attempts, a couple go in, and maybe sometimes that's what you need, a little, some puck luck. But I think he's done a better job with it this year no matter what. Like, I think everyone's basically, probably had a part in that, getting him to be a little more shot-driven. And some of it's just maturity in the league. You just recognize after a while the volume of shots with people going to the net is a great way to create offense. And we saw some of it tonight. And said we finally got a little. Second period we had 0 puck luck, and the third we stuck with it and we got lots. So good for us.
As a coaching staff, do you still have to encourage that out, Charlie, to be having attacking mindset?
Yeah, you want to let him play. I mean, he's a very fluid, creative player. So I don't want to be that guy that, it's easy for me to say, hey, pass here, shoot here. He's running a power play with some high-end talent, okay, with one puck, and they all want it. Marshy wants it to get it into Bergie. Pasta wants it to shoot it. High tips available sometimes, so he's got the coach in his ear, like if they're taking away the elbows. And, so all of a sudden, net front, like, hey, throw some in for me, I'm open. You know what I mean? So it's like a quarterback a little bit. Everybody wants the ball. So he's got to balance that in the power play and then 5-on-5. I think that's where we encourage him more, 5-on-5. Get more pucks than that. It's a little more simple. It's just, pucks to net, we'll get inside position, whereas the power play is a little more scripted.
First line, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask how much of an emphasis was the shift after you guys score a goal. Was it discussed at all in the room?
Well, we talk about it on the bench quickly, but I think part of the problem is you need to have a plan going into a face-off, and that's where the center and the D have to talk. And we practice at least 3 different plays off a center ice draw, right? So I'm not going to say you're going to run some high-risk play, but if you're all on the same page, a lot of them will at least result in a north play where it's tipped into the zone. So we've just got to get better at that. It's almost like I'd rather we lose the draw, because we keep winning it and it comes right down our throat. So, listen, there's always stuff you got to work on, right? And players never want to make it easy on us old coaches, so they'll keep us on our toes. But it's happened a lot. It's obviously an area we need to address because, again, tonight, we win it and it's right back in our end and we need a save. So. Building momentum, keeping teams on their heels instead of letting them back on their toes is important. But some of that is, we're young in certain positions. They just got to learn it. We got to find a line. Typically, Bergeron's line, the one that's scoring. So I joked about it the other day. I was, in Jersey. I was like, I'm going to call timeout now and then put them back out there after they score. But I mean, you just got to build some of that into your game from your other people. That's what you have to do. And that falls on me to make sure that the message across to a Nosek who does it well of the world, and Hall, whoever it is, hey, you know what, we're going forward with this, and then the D have to be on the same page. So it's an area of concern, but the good news is it's happening more where we're scoring to take lead, so that's the positive of it.
Along those lines, Bruce, the first line factored into the win, obviously, but it's gratifying not to need those guys just to let the goals.
Yeah, it's nice, for us as a team, I think when other people are on the score sheet, it's always good for the room. It's good for morale, for guys. It's good for everybody to, that, hey, we can beat you different ways. We want to be that team. So, yeah, I thought they were dominant in the second period. Certainly gave us a lot of life with their puck possession and even some shifts in the first period with Charlie. They found him a couple times in the slot. Charlie had some real good looks. I mean, he got 2 tonight, and I think the first period took a shot. The goalie was going the other way, and it hit him. I don't know how that one didn't go in the high slot. So, they had their looks, but, it wasn't going in for them, and it was for Coyle. But I think some of that was, Taylor Hall, the goal Charlie scored. I mean, he put it on net, right? Like just off the wing. We weren't looking to make an extra pass. It was on net. Force them to rebound or box out or whatever you want to call it, and they did. And we got a goal. So there's a little bit of that mentality starting to happen, right? In Jersey, we got 3 that way. So maybe this is something that'll snowball for us.
Not everybody can do, or maybe even should do what Foligno does, but is that something you got to hold up in practice and say, look at the result of this guy driving the net and how it opens up possibilities?
Well, it's what he does, and I do think that Bergeron does that as well as anybody. So it's almost like, you're trying to build lines sometimes with that in mind, right? Like who's gonna be the net presence, especially with a Hall and Coyle, right? Like that's where Smitty, when he's in there, if he's shooting, that's where one of the other two guys has to go to the net. And I think that's where Nick can complement that line, is he will go there, or if it's Hall and DeBrusque. But we try to put the emphasis on that when we talk about ozone principles, there needs to be a net presence. And like a lot of things with the Boston Bruins, when it's your turn, right? And it's not designated every time. Yes, Nick likes to go there. He's good at it. Bergie does a lot but Pasta, if it's your turn to go to the net, go to the net, and that's something you just kind of keep, grinding away on, and you hope over time that they accept it. If I'm the middle lane drive, I'm the net guy. Doesn't mean you have to live there the whole shift, but you do have to be the guy that's, occupying people and going there for second chances and taking away the goalie's eyes.
Bruce, I understand it's 1 of 82, but there was a lot of energy in the building, like there is, but with the Canadians here, was there a little more?
It's not 1 of 82 when it's Montreal. It isn't to me anyway, and it shouldn't be to anybody that knows anything about the Boston Bruins, right? So, and I even heard Nick Foligno talking about it in the room after. So he's new, but he's got a father that participated in a lot of NHL rivalries, and he's in one here. So, no, there's always more. I mean, yes, it's 1 of 82 tomorrow. We got our 2 points. We came back to win. We stuck with it, but it's still the Montreal Canadiens, and we want to beat them every time we step on the ice. And that's the attitude we need to have around here.
Bruce, having Joe run the defense instead of Kevin, what went into that?
We had a conversation this week. I thought for Kevin, without getting in depth and everything, Fluto, was go upstairs and take a look at a couple games. See what you're processing up there that can relate back to the bench. I think what we have this year, Fluto, a little bit is if you look at our decor, a lot of guys, I think they're all under 30 if I'm not mistaken. We've got guys that have played in the league, Grizz, Charlie, Carlo, but they're not, these battle-tested 35-year-old veterans. So there's a little bit more teaching involved, I think, this year in game. Teaching is typically done with video after you go through it the next day, right? Or here, this is what we need. But in game, I think more is required this year at all positions. You got Bleed in here, Kuhlman, Steen today. We're a little bit younger. Forward group, I would say more veteran down the middle, obviously, but there's still some of that going on. And Kel's, that's the reason he was brought down a little bit early. Now he was up for 1 period or 2 periods before. So, and with Kevin, it's like, okay, go up and watch, and we need this to translate in game. Not only do you have to find your matchups and manage your minutes for your D pairs, but you're going to have to do a little more teaching and blend that in with your matchups. We may lose the odd matchup here and there because you're doing a little more instruction, but I think that's what this decor requires on a nightly basis. And so that was the reason. He'll go back on Saturday. It'll be the plan, and we'll sort through it and see if we'll have some communication on that. And I don't think it's the end of the world for guys to sort of take a step back and then hopefully use that to his advantage going forward.
Time for one more.
Your initial thought going into the season was you wouldn't go with the same goalie on back-to-back nights. You went with Swayman.
Well, I fooled you guys today because no one asked me. I don't think maybe Steve did finally.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's mixing curveballs in on me now. He usually asks me right away. Sorry to cut you off, Kevin. Yeah, that was a gut feeling that the one part of having a two-headed monster in nets is now you're trying to get 2 goalies going. And I think with the amount of games we have, it's been a tough challenge for both of them to sort of get into their rhythm. So I guess after the other night, I said, well, we'll get maybe one going and then work on the other one and get him going. It just happened to be Swayman. I think, in fairness to Ullmark, he had the toughest assignment with Edmonton and their potent offense. I think it'll be a good week for him to sort of get his practice details and et cetera in order. And I told him that, and I'll give Steve a head start, that he'll probably go in the net in Philadelphia. That was the plan originally, give him a week of practice. That could always change, but that was kind of the conversation because we're going to definitely split them next weekend.
Thanks, Coach.